Today we have a couple of beautiful S197 Mustangs owned by a couple of real Mustang enthusiasts. Today we're with Brian and Melissa and their beautiful S197 Mustangs. These cars make over 1,300 horsepower combined, and the best part, this couple built them home in their garage by themselves, and today they're going to tell you their story.
So I have owned my Mustang for just over 7 years now, and it was one of those things that I was probably 10 or 12 years old, somewhere in that range. I saw a Mustang in my neighborhood growing up, and I was like, that's the car I gotta have one day.
So I've owned my Mustang for about a year now. We got it back in November, the beginning of November.
Yep.
And same thing, growing up, I would see Mustangs and I would, oh, I like that car. And I'd always just wanted one. So the story behind getting my car, Brian had taken his motor out of his car and he had been looking on Facebook Marketplace to put it in something because he can't just have a motor sitting there. So he came across this car and he sent it to me and it was in rough shape. I thought it looked like a piece of junk, but he was like, no, it's really not that bad. It's like, it looks fine. We'll go take a look at it. And so we drove up to New Jersey, take a look at this car, and I was like, there's no motor. Like the inside looked good, but the outside was a different story. It was black.
Good.
Yeah. It was black, and I was like, I don't want a black car. And he was like, well, we'll take it over and we'll just do like whatever you want to it. And I was like, well, I mean, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it was one of those things that when I came across it, I knew, being a car guy, I've been around for a long time. It was definitely, I knew it would be a full-on restoration, and I knew it would be quite the undertaking, but I figured if it was something she was intrigued by, knowing that she would have something that's honestly one of a kind when it was all said and done, I was like, look, if it's something you'd be willing to work on, because it's not gonna be an overnight endeavor. If you're willing to work on it, we can do it, so.
So as much as I wanted a grabber blue car, he was like, you shouldn't do a factory color that, comes on the Mustangs, and I was like, okay. So we went through a bunch of paint options, and I actually looked at a nitrous blue Focus in person, and it had this nice sparkle to it, which you don't see on a lot of, cars.
It's really hard to get that kind of a sparkle effect out of a bright color car and do it well. So it was one of those colors that I was like, we should go check this one out in person.
Yeah. So then I saw the nitrous blue, and I was like, okay, this is what I want. And then, talking to the paint guy, I was like, I'd really like extra sparkle. What can we do? And he was like, oh, we can do anything. What do you want to do? And I was like, oh,
yeah,
well, I don't know.
We opened a door on that one. I had no idea.
So we set the deadline for Mustang Week in September because we picked up the car in November. We're like, we have a whole year. It should be, easy because doable. We just didn't realize what we were getting into and how all the little things started adding up. And
I knew what we were getting into, and like I told you from the get-go, it was going to be very advantageous for us to make it to Mustang Week, but if we were on top of our game and we didn't ever slip along the way, it was definitely a possibility. And the closer we got to being done, so we definitely had some serious ups and downs right at the end, but we managed to get it done in the nick of time. It's certainly not perfect, just like anything. It still takes time to get it all really dialed in, but we managed to meet the deadline, which was pretty insane. The hardest part of the build probably, I would say, would be the emotional roller coaster, because if you look at it from a mechanical standpoint, it wasn't anything too over the top. Sure, it's tedious and lots of work, but I think the biggest thing was mentally staying focused and getting the job done and not letting the constant ups and downs of everything stop you and just give up essentially.
The first time I actually drove the car, I drove it 2 hours to Northern Virginia to take it back to the paint shop 3 days before Mustang Week. We had to get it buffed and polished. And yeah, I had 4 hours of seat time before I actually drove it to Mustang Week.
And Mustang Week is about a 7 to 8 hour drive from our house, so
yeah,
that was the majority of the seat time.
But it was great. I was a little nervous driving it because it wasn't inspected.
I did take it for a quick spin around the block before letting her drive it, so that I made sure everything kind of felt okay and the wheels weren't going to fall off half a mile down the road, so
Yeah.
don't want to put my wife at risk. So my car, originally when I bought it, I was a dark gray, so I decided to call it Steel. Most people, when they name their car, they go for a more feminine approach, and when I bought it, I always knew I wanted to have like this, like, I don't know, just badass, like muscular Mustang. I called it Steel, so it's actually a dude. He's my bro. So I bought it pretty much stock. When I bought it, it had some Borla mufflers on it, and that was pretty much it outside of some blacked out badges. I've had it 7 years, so I've done everything along the way. When I got it, I didn't know what I was doing, so I learned. To get to where it is now, I mean, I've literally touched every nut and bolt on this car. Top down, it's full suspension, motor, transmission, all of it's done. I recently did the rear end when I blew that up for the first time, and transmission for the second time. And I've done all kinds of cosmetics to get it where it is. If you look at it, it's got all 13, 14 lights on it, but it's actually a 2012. So it's a hybrid to some extent. I've deemed the term Frankenstein towards it a few times because it's got a hodgepodge of all kinds of different parts. You'll see the Shelby logo on the seats, and then Boss 302 manifold. So like you've covered all of the different versions of Mustang there. But over winter, this last winter, I did an entire Coyote motor assembly. To my knowledge, the first of its kind. So it's a Gen 3 short block, Gen 2 heads, so 2015 to 17 heads, and then it's an 11 to 14 cam set. I run the Comp Cam Stage 3 blower cams. They are the Gen 1 cams to kind of talk to the ECU, because you can't run Gen 2 and later cams because of different firing order. So the motor build, and then I have it paired up with a Paxton 2200 self-oiled unit. So I run it with a 333 pulley, and that's pretty much it. And then a tile blow-off valve to kind of accommodate the higher boost levels. So that combination on the old motor, it made 610 horsepower, but then me switching the motor out, nothing else on the car except for removing the wastegate at the time. It now makes 850 horsepower on E85.
We did not meet through Mustangs. We actually met in high school.
Yep. It was like 10th grade. I remember seeing her the first day of school and was like, oh, dang, that girl's kind of cute. And so I didn't know her, and I just knew who she was talking to. So it was like a friend of a friend type thing. And lo and behold, lunchtime, we go right into our next class, and it was like immediately after lunch, and then there she was again, and I was like, oh, hey, what's up? We just met. And she just kind of looked at me like, who the heck is this guy? I used to come in late to school, like all the time.
Every day?
I used to skateboard to school, which was like 3 miles, and on my way, I was like, well, if I'm gonna be late, I might as well stop at a 7-Eleven, grab myself a little candy bar, and so she started being like, well, where's mine? So I started bringing them in, and that's actually how I asked her out at the time, and then eventually asked her to marry me, same way. Like we said, we both were into Mustangs at a young age, and it was something that we always wanted. I got mine, she always wanted hers, but it was one of those things
I was so jealous when he got his.
Yeah.
So jealous.
So obviously, I had it for 7 years. We've been married for 3, and so at the time, it was my money. I was spending my money on the car. Getting ready to get married and everything. Now we share budget and everything like that. So at that point, like, I was now spending our money on the car, and it kind of like was one of those subliminal things where like I always had it in the back of my head, like I feel bad spending her money on the car too. But we knew that she wanted one, and it was one of those things I always kept my eye out looking for the right thing. Never knew the right thing was going to be what we got, because I thought it was going to be a whole car when we got it.
Same.
But yeah, it was one of those things that I run all the finances and all that stuff, so I'm always on the same page with her. I let her know what's going on, and if I'm looking at buying something, so I kind of always at least get the no before I buy it anyways.
That's true.
Yes, and so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it works. We share finances, we're in this together, that's what marriage is all about and everything, and it just was one of those things that we wanted Mustangs before we knew each other wanted Mustangs, so it was kind of cool to be able to pick that up, and I always wanted to be able to provide to her that Mustang that she always wanted. So it was kind of cool knowing that we were
I didn't
able
know
to do
how
that.
hard it was going to be.
Look,
how much hard work.
nothing in life is easy, okay?
Yeah.
You got to earn it sometimes.
That's for sure.
And where we are right now with the whole modified car aspect, it's like, as Bill asked, who gets the next modification?
Brian said he is done with his.
I did. I said I was done with my car because I honestly, like I've said before, I've literally done everything top down. There's nothing else I really care to do.
I don't believe him though.
Outside of maybe like a few minor cosmetic tweaks in the engine bay, but that's about it. I don't really have any. It's already making 850. Anything more than that, like it's already borderline difficult to drive on the street, like and actually use it. So I don't want it to be a full-on drag car. I've always built it with the intention of it being an all-around, all-purpose vehicle. Like I know it's kind of contradictory. You're supposed to go one way or the other, but I just want it to be a badass street car, and that's where I'm trying to stop.
I don't even know what modification I would want next. Like I feel like I haven't really gotten to enjoy the car that much.
Yeah, because it's been such a whirlwind getting to where it's at. I wanted to do it for her, so that it was what she wanted. So like, people probably think like, oh, he bought that car for himself or whatever, but that's not the case at all. Every design cue, everything about this car is what she wanted. I gave her options and I was like, look, you know, these are what you can do. But it was all her choice at the end of the day, like the paint color and all that stuff. That was the one thing, that was the one executive decision I made.
He said no grabber blue and I was like.
Yeah, we're not gonna repaint an entire car a factory color. We have to do something special.
So I got as close as I could.
Couples that wanna get into cars together, I think you honestly have to take it as a commitment almost like you would marriage. Like it's not necessarily always easy. It takes work, which is I think the big thing that people struggle with nowadays is coping with that.
Yeah, got a lot of give and take.
Yeah, a lot of give and take, just like anything in life. So.
I want to thank you guys for coming out today. It was a blast watching you two build this car on Instagram and seeing it in person. It's even nicer than it looked on cameras. Now, if you guys want to see your car on a customer spotlight, let us know in the comments below.